This video is on diversification. So we now want to understand why holding a portfolio provides higher risk-adjusted returns than holding assets on a stand-alone basis. So consider two risky investments, A and B. These can be single stocks, bonds, currencies, commodities, or already diversified exchange-traded funds or actively managed funds. Asset A is less risky and pays a lower expected return than asset B. Now assume we invest WA, which is between 0 and 1, into asset A and 1 minus WA into asset B. The resulting portfolio return RP equals the following. The portfolio's expected return mu P equals the next expression, which says that the expected return of a portfolio is a linear combination of the expected returns of the portfolio's constituents. Now the magic of diversification arises from the portfolio's variance sigma square P. It equals the following expression, where rho A, B is the unconditional correlation between asset A and asset B. So looking at the portfolio's variance, I want to highlight 6 takeaways. First, portfolio risk increases as the correlation increases. Second, as a general rule, portfolio risk is lower than the weighted sum of risks of its constituents. The only exception comes up when there is perfect correlation among all the assets in the portfolio. It's only in that very special case that portfolio risk is equal to the weighted sum of single asset risks. Third, the lower the correlation, the larger the spread between the sum of weighted risks of the portfolio's constituents and the risk of the portfolio, and hence the larger the benefit of diversification. Fourth, an asset that correlates negatively with the other assets in the portfolio is called hedge asset. A hedge asset is particularly beneficial for lowering portfolio risk. Fifth, investing into a portfolio earns higher risk-adjusted returns than investing into a single asset. That holds because the portfolio's expected return is a weighted average of the expected returns of all constituents. But the volatility of the portfolio return is lower than the weighted average of the volatility of all constituents. Now we can visualize the advantage of diversification via 2 graphs. Notice there is only one free lunch in finance, and that one is highlighted in the left graph. Adding a little bit of a high risk and high expected return asset to a low risk and low expected return asset results in a portfolio that very remarkably is even less risky than the low risk asset. But like in a miracle, the expected return of the portfolio increases. Diversification therefore implies less risk and higher expected returns. That indeed is a free lunch that smart investors won't leave on the table. The graph on the right shows that the individual constituents of a portfolio are undiversified positions. Moreover, a portfolio remains undiversified only if the correlation among all constituents is 1. For most practical settings, the correlation is below 1, and so holding a portfolio diversifies away asset-specific risk. Notice point 1 in the graph on the right. It's the portfolio with the largest diversification benefit. It's called the global minimum variance portfolio. The last learning point for that video here is the following. An investor has 2 ways to diversify away asset-specific risk. There is what is called the naive approach, which is also known as the 1/n rule. It says that if you invest 1,000 euros into 10 assets, you invest 100 euros into each asset. That type of diversification is cheap to implement, does not rely on any optimization, and does also not depend on knowing the expected returns, variances, and pairwise correlations of all the assets in the asset universe. Interestingly, there is strong empirical evidence that 1/n portfolios achieve lots of diversification benefits and perform very well in real-life situations. The second approach to diversification is a systematic approach that follows the 1990 Nobel Prize procedure of Professor Harry Markowitz. In a laboratory environment, nothing beats the systematic diversification approach. But in real-life situations, investors have to estimate expected returns, variances, and pairwise correlations, which makes the approach fragile to the garbage in, garbage out problem. Now here are my final words for that video. Regardless of whether you follow a systematic or a naive diversification with a few or with many assets, the important thing is that you diversify your investments and that you don't put all of your eggs into one basket.
Got feedback? We would love to hear it. Please drop us a line. And if you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel.